So the British and Irish Lions have made it 3 wins out of 3 on their tour so far. A 54-7 win against the South Sea Sharks at Emirates Airlines Park in Johannesburg. And watching the game alongside me was Leinster second row and Ireland second row, Devin Toner. Devin, overall assessment, given the circumstances of the day that's been, where they've had COVID positive cases, they had 4 players to take out of their starting lineup, another 4 players coming out of the substitutes bench. They'd won back on the substitutes bench. I think they were always expected to win the game, but they went about it the right way and will probably be pretty happy overall with the way it finished.
Yeah, I think they will be very happy. I think they'll be more happy that they have no injuries as well. Thank God. But I think with all the chopping and changing before the game, and obviously with the 7 forwards and the 1 back on the bench, and of all that happened, to put 50 points on a really good Sharks team is a really good performance. So I think they can take a lot of positives from it as well.
Before we even get into the specifics of the performance, this sort of a scenario is something that yourself and every professional player has kind of been dealing with for the last year now, where there have been positive cases in camps, players have had to isolate and stuff like that. Never mind on the day of a game. How much does that just disrupt the preparation for any match?
Yeah, when it happens so late as well, we haven't had it happen so late to us. Well, I suppose we had a match postponed or cancelled against Toulon, obviously, but we haven't had the amount of disruption that the Lions have just had. So it will obviously play a part. But because it's such a new team and lads are getting used to obviously different combinations and stuff, it'd probably be easier because it's a Lions team, I suppose. But yeah, no, again, it's just something you probably have to put up with. I think as a professional player, as a professional team, I think you got to roll with the punches sometimes, to be honest, and then just try and get on with it.
Yeah, like people always say that when it comes to a Lions tour players, they're going to be asked to do things that you're not ordinarily going to be asked to do in a season, like playing a midweek game and playing again on a Saturday. Look at Josh Adams, who's pretty much played 3 full games. He was still out there on the 80 minutes this evening, having played the full 80 the last day, and still had enough time to wrap up his hat-trick towards the end. Like himself and Duan van der Merwe obviously will get all the plaudits, a hat-trick apiece for them. But Josh Adams, the start he's had, 8 tries in 3 games.
Hopefully he gets a bit of a rest now. 380 minutes is unbelievable start to start, and obviously his strike rate for tries is brilliant. But I think it's just people are so impressed. I'm so impressed with his work rate and how he gets on the ball, how he gets on the end of everything, how he's just available for that little pop pass at the end. And then obviously he got that try today that where he had to work that little bit hard. He worked himself with the little chip through and everyone was just so impressed with how he played, yeah.
And talk about the pressure it's putting on others to perform now as well, because you have himself on 8 tries, Duan van der Merwe, who's now up to 4 after his hat-trick this evening. And then it's the likes of, previous Lions like Anthony Watson and Liam Williams, who unfortunately didn't get a chance to get out there this evening and play their second match of the tour. And, on top of the fact that they had to be withdrawn from the game, they had to sit on and watch as both the way, 2 of the back 3 players that came in for them both racked up a hat-trick.
I know it's never hard seeing someone in your position do so well, to be honest. Like I know everyone in the squad, you're very happy for everyone playing well, but when you're in your position and they're going for your test squad as well, it's always hard, especially when you don't get a chance to play. Obviously Watson being taken out early today, but again, it's just lads putting their hands up for selection.
When it comes to the Irish players, I know, having been on commentary with you this evening, Iain Henderson captained the side this evening. I know you were very impressed with the shift he put in. Yeah,
I think there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders going in, not only because he was captain, obviously because he was a pack leader and because he's calling a line-out as well. I think people underestimate what goes into line-out calling. It's because there's so much pressure on set piece these days to keep hold of the ball. There's a lot of pressure on what lineouts to call, and I think that he did a phenomenal job today. I think they had a lot of variety in their delivery from lineout, whether they mauled it, whether they broke out and did a dummy maul, or where they went off the top. I think there was a lot of variety there, but I think he did really well in his defensive shift as well. I think he really fronted up physically and he really brought the ball or brought the game to them, and I think he just wanted to lead from the front, and I think he did that.
What goes into the process of calling the lineouts? Because obviously, I'm sure it's not just as simple as you have a penalty and you all gather yourselves and you say, "All right, we're going up at 4." You know, that's maybe what lads are doing, what my team are doing when we're playing J3 and J4 level. I'm sure there's an element where you have an idea what call you might want, and you're getting up there and you're looking, okay, well they have whoever standing up at 2. Maybe we need to change it. How much is going in, and how much has been changed on the ground right there and then?
It's evolved over the years. It used to be, okay, we'll throw it to 4 here, and then we'll just go for it. But over the years, it has evolved. So, like, you get a penalty, they kick the touch, you go to your 10, what do we need off the top, or a maul, or what set piece we're going to do. So you have in your head where you need to win it. But nowadays, most teams would have bailouts. So you would make a call. Well, some teams call out of the line, some teams call in the line. They might have 1 or 2 calls with a couple of bailouts as well. So some particular teams might go in with actually 5 or 6 calls ready to go. And it's whatever, just say for instance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you mean? So if you call 1, it'll go to the front. If you call 5, it'll go to the back. So everyone needs to be on edge, I suppose. So it really has evolved over the years, and obviously every caller is different, but it's a fact of having one banker in your head and then seeing if the opposition move, going to where they're not, basically. In the simplest terms, that's what it is.
And I'm sure the fun then is when you have all that for a Leinster, and then you're in an Ireland camp and you have probably another book of calls to learn, another book of processes to take care of, and you have you've the Munster lads dealing with their own versions and their changes, and the Ulster lads are the same as well. Like, it's an incredibly complicated process of the modern game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But on the flip side, I'm obviously fortunate to be coached by Robin McBride. Obviously, he was the forwards coach of the Lions as well. And knowing him, he probably would have tried to do the most simplistic line-out calling structure, line-out menu for this tour. So hopefully, it probably be a little bit simpler than, say, an international team or a club team, because we get to spend so much time with each other. We can do it day in, day out, but because they've got such a short amount of time to prepare, they would have a simpler menu, and it's working. So it's they're obviously winning their balls, and being able to deliver. So thankfully it's working for them. And
when it comes to like a potential test second row partnership, most people probably have Maro Itoje with a jersey on his back already. When you're looking for like who could potentially be partnering him, like what are the things do you think a coach is looking for? Is it the best player available? Is it figuring out what way a partnership works, where maybe if someone calls line out, if Itoje, for example, isn't calling lineouts, he wants someone who's going to be able to do that job. So, like, is it just about finding the right piece to fit in there?
I think so. To me, you need your best lineout caller, basically.
Against the box in particular.
Against the box in particular, because they're obviously a very tall team. So if I was picking a team, I would 100% have Iain Henderson down, because I think he's the best lineout caller there. Now, you do have obviously Tig, who can call as well. Tig Byrne, he calls for Munster. I think Maro has called a bit for England. He wouldn't probably be the most experienced lineout caller there is. Obviously Johnny Hill as well. I think he calls a bit for Exeter. But for me, I would have Hendy down as that main lineout caller, and probably with Maro.
On the other set piece then, the scrum was probably the one area of the Lions game that actually did struggle in the opening 50 odd minutes. You did see it though when the likes of Tyg Furlong came on, and when Rory Sutherland and Ken Owens came on, when it was that new front row. For the few scrums there were after that in the second half, it was Lions dominating it. Do you think Robin McBride would be worried with what he saw in those opening 50 minutes though?
I don't know, will he be worried? Yeah, maybe. It's never good seeing your front row going flat like a pancake, I suppose, in the first couple of scrums and giving away penalties. I think that's one of the areas that will probably be a little bit worrying in the reviews, is just the discipline and the amount of penalties they gave away, and they mainly came from the scrum. So, and you can see when Tig and Rory Sutherland came on that and Ken Owens, they had the upper hand and they were winning the penalties then. So it's never really as plain to see as it was as plain in that game to see, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean you could just see the difference that someone like Tyg Furlong brings to it.
Yeah, You can see in all facets of his game. I think he relishes the physicality of rugby. You know, he relishes the scrum. He really loves getting involved. You can see it when they were defending 5 meters from their own try line. I think he's putting his body on the line. Do you know what I mean? You might look at that and you might think that people are going to save themselves to not get injured for the test. But you see Jack Cohn, you see Tyke Furlong. I think Ken Owens was doing it as well. Everyone was putting their body on their line just and it worked. I mean, they got the turnover and I think they ended up scoring the try off it. Oh no, it was the Navidi try that got chalked off. But I think they're really putting in defensive efforts there in 65, 70 minutes. It was brilliant.
That's going to be one area that they will be very pleased about, the defensive side of things, particularly close to their own line as opposed to maybe further out the pitch, because the way the game developed in both the first and second half, the Sharks did have a good bit of possession at various times, quite close to the Lions' try line, and there were 2 or 3 occasions during that match where they just soaked up the pressure, made their tackles, won a couple of the collisions as well, and managed to eventually someone getting their hands in over the ball and winning a turnover.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons for that was the double hits. I think they were putting in a lot of double shots, and I think in the first half in particular, there was a lot of chop tackles as well from Cowan Dickey and from Simmons, and I think the back row in the first half was really putting in good hits. And then the physicality in the second half by a lot of them double hits. I think if you're getting hit by 2 people every time, it's going to be a hard day at the office, you know. And I think that's one area of the game that the Lions will be really pleased with.
How did Bundyaki go tonight? He got his try, I know, towards the tail end of the first half. Overall, your assessment of him?
Yeah, I think he did well. I think he probably would say himself that he was a bit quiet on the ball. He probably would have liked to get the ball a bit more in hand and be a bit more attacking. I know he got his try, but it was from a maul and a pick and go, so it wasn't really flowing rugby. But I think he did really well in defence. I think he was physical and he really put it up to them. But I think, as he'd say himself, that he probably would like to get on the ball a bit more.
Any other standout performers from the game for you?
I think Hendy played great. I think the whole back row. I think Sam Simmons did really well. I think he had a really good few touches and a good few carries. I think Ali Price did really well as well. He got really one good important turnover after scramble D. And I suppose Owen Farrell did really well at 10. I think he made a lot of good decisions. People have been saying whether it's going to be Bigger or Finn Russell, but I think Owen's put his hand up for selection now in that 10 slot. Yeah, and
he really brought the back 3 into the game, on Farrell, with some of those nice little grubber kicks down the line, down in towards the corners that, you know, Lewis Rees-Zammit, Duan van der Merwe were chasing on. Managed to judge the pace on him quite well for most of the game.
Yeah, he was just making really good decisions. I think obviously with that, with the winger getting yellow carded for the Sharks, I think he obviously has a phenomenal rugby brain. Like he's an incredibly smart rugby player, and he obviously knew that there was space in behind, so he was putting through them grubbers. But again, yeah, as I said, he was just making really good decisions of whether to keep it alive or tuck it up and carry himself or kick it. So he had a really good game.
In your own opinion, is he best served as an out half or a centre? Where do you think England or Saracens tend to get the best out of him?
Yeah, I think he's best as a 10, to be honest. I think he likes controlling the game, and he, as I said, he's a really good rugby brain, and he makes a lot of good decisions. So I think he's and it's always good to have a 10 who can tackle as well.
And away from the lines, you're back into pre-season training soon. You were telling me it's nearly set to go. It's mad, like, you know, there's still 5 or 6 games left in a Lions campaign, and you're getting ready to get back out on the pitch in the coming weeks.
Yeah, this week and next week we have to do our own stuff, do our own runs or do our own weights, and then we're back into it. Then after the break, it seems to have flown by. But yeah, to see the new season get back up and running, it only feels like last season just ended, to be honest.
Was it a late decision to keep going for another season? I know a lot of people expected you were going to be finishing up with Leinster when you were one of those trio along with Scott Fardy and Michael Bent that was given the Pro 14 trophy, because, you know, that's been the Leinster tradition. The departing players are lifting the trophies at the end of the season. I think we all thought you were going to be moving on. Was it a late call to be staying on?
Yeah. In all honesty, I thought at that stage I thought I was going as well. It happened late enough that contract came about, and obviously delighted to be able to stay. There were other things in the mix that could have happened, but thankfully got over the line and delighted to be able to stay on for another year. But yeah, no, at the time I did think I was out the door.
And do you think, is it just another year for yourself in the game, or you?
Who knows? As the second rows get better with age, don't they? So talk to me at the end of next year, we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah, it's never good to be asking those questions in pre-season when the body's feeling great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Devin Toner, thanks a million for joining us this evening.
Thanks a million.